I don't think a lot of people know how much humor I have. You know, I got a lot of stories. If I couldn't be Pete Rose, I'd rather be Bill Gates. Who wouldn't be? I don't know who's got worse hair, Donald Trump, me, or David Letterman.
Due to his exploits on the diamond, he earned the nickname Charlie Hustle because he played the sport with unbridled aggression. He was called the Hit King because he did that by being one of the best to swing a bat. Yes, on the field, Pete Rose is considered baseball's royalty. However, outside the ballpark, his life has been marked by mystery, controversy, and scandal, making it one of the darkest chapters in sports. In this video, we are going to look at the top 10 things to know from the wild, unbelievable life of Pete Rose. Number 10. Early life. Pete Rose was born April 14, 1941 in Cincinnati, Ohio, the first of 4 children born to Harry Francis Pete and Laverne Rose. Harry was a former amateur athlete, sports commentator, and banker. Harry was competitive and dreamed of seeing his offspring develop the same intense drive for success that he always had. A legendary story about Harry once broke his hip in the middle of a football game and still kept running until he finished a tackle. Yes, Pete idolized his father, and the apple did not fall far from the tree, right? Pete played baseball and football at Western Hills High School. Rose was dejected and soon lost interest in his studies after not getting promoted to the varsity football team as a running back. At the end of the school year, Rose's teachers decreed that he would have to attend summer school or repeat the class. His father decided it would be better for Pete to repeat a year of school than miss a summer playing baseball. When Rose reached his senior year, he had used up his 4 years of sports eligibility. So in the spring in 1960, he joined a Class AA team and dominated the league, compiling a .626 batting average. Pete's uncle, Buddy Blowbaum, was a scout for the hometown Cincinnati Reds, and he pleaded the case for his nephew to get a shot. The plea worked, and the franchise decided to take on Pete. Upon his graduation from high school, Rose signed a professional contract.
If I had not had an uncle who was a scout for the Cincinnati Reds, I'd have never got an opportunity to play baseball in the big leagues. And that was 4,256 hits ago.
Number 9. Rookie of the Year. Pete got his shot at starting at second base in spring training when Don Blasingame pulled a groin muscle, and he made it count. He made an impression immediately in his first spring training with New York Yankees pitcher Whitey Ford, giving him the derisive nickname Charlie Hustle, after Rose sprinted to first base after drawing a walk. Rose made his first major league debut on April 8, 1963 against the Pittsburgh Pirates at Crosley Field and drew a walk in his first plate appearance. Interestingly, things did not start great for Pete because he began his career by going 0 for 11 behind the plate. However, he turned things around, hitting .273 and collecting 17 of 20 votes and being named the National League Rookie of the Year. The lesson in life, kids? It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Number 8. Playing style. Pete was a super utility player before that became a thing in baseball. Rose played as a second baseman, left fielder, right fielder, third baseman, and first baseman. In addition, the man was ambidextrous, and a part of his success was his switch hitting ability. Yes, talented as ever. Rose played the sport aggressively, and many perceived his unusual playing style and extreme attitude towards competing as arrogant. This often caused rifts with his teammates initially and later opposing players, managers, and fans. He sprinted to first on walks, slid head first, and started fights at the slightest provocation. For instance, the All-Star game doesn't count for anything and is traditionally just for entertainment. However, that's not how Pete Rose looked at it. In the 1970 All-Star game, Rose tried to score the winning run before catcher Ray Fosse could tag him out. Rose dove head first into Fosse's shoulder at full force. The force of the collision made Fosse drop the ball. Rose was safe, and his team won.
Picked up by Otis. Rose is coming to the plate, throws a throw. He's in. It's all over. The National League wins.
However, Fosse suffered a serious fracture and a separated shoulder because of the hit. Many people criticized Rose for being unnecessarily aggressive in a game that didn't even count. Fosse missed a ton of games after the collision and continues to suffer from chronic shoulder pain to this day. In the 1973 NLCS, Rose kickstarted a benches-clearing fistfight brawl when he aggressively slid into New York Mets' second baseman Bud Harrelson. Telling you, Pete was something else.
Making the double play, Rose outweighs Harrelson about 35 pounds.
Number 7. Mr. Clutch. Rose was the man you wanted at the plate in the postseason. Rose appeared in 67 NLCS and World Series games, hitting .321 with 86 hits and 22 RBIs. During the 1975 World Series, he hit .370 with an on-base percentage of .485. When past his prime, as he was in 1980, he could still lead a team to a championship. Rose joined the Philadelphia Phillies as a free agent before the 1979 season. There, Rose played first base, and he appeared in all 162 games. Imagine that today, playing all 162? That ain't happening. The Phillies won 91 games, clinching the division by just one game over the Expos. During the NLCS against the surprising Houston team, Rose hit .400 as they beat the Astros in 5 games. While his average dropped during the World Series against the Kansas City Royals, his 3 hits in Game 6, along with his rescue of catcher Bob Boone's muff of a foul pop, sealed the game. What a play! Rose lifted the Phillies to their first World Series that night. At nearly 40 years of age, the former rival became a Philly hero. Pete Rose was Mr. Clutch. Number 6. Fun fact: finding a way to win. Rose's win-at-all-costs attitude led to some funny stories. For instance, Rose once spoiled a no-hitter by reaching base via a walk. Then he managed to score on a fielding error. The play gave the Reds a 1-0 lead, even though they hadn't yet recorded a hit. Thanks to Rose, the Reds became the first team in baseball history to win a game in which the opposing pitcher threw a complete game no-hitter. To top that, in 1969, he entered the last game of the season tied with Roberto Clemente. On the spot, he came up with a brilliant plan to bunt and catch the opponent off guard. The bunt worked, and Rose beat Clemente by 1 hit. Pete was a winner. Number 5. Achievements and records. Pete Rose was a record breaker. The Hit King owns at least 19 major league records. You heard that right, 19. The monumental records include 4 games played, 3,562, plate appearances, 15,890, at-bats, 14,053, singles, 3,215, and times on base, 5,929. As a switch hitter, he has the most career runs, 2,165, most career doubles, 746, most career walks, 1,566, and most career total bases, 5,752. Rose also owns 7 National League records. Rose was also honored with the 1968 Hutch Award, the 1969 Lou Gehrig Memorial Award, and the 1976 Roberto Clemente Award. Rose made the National League All-Star roster 17 times. Pete Rose was voted the National League's most valuable player in 1973 to go along with 3 World Series rings. Yes, the guy can be described in one word: accomplished.
Somewhere above tonight, Pete's dad has to be looking down with a big smile on Cincinnati Riverfront Stadium.
Number 4. Transition to manager getting physical. After leaving the Phillies in 1983, Rose joined the Montreal Expos in 1984. Late in the season, the Expos traded Rose to his original team, the Cincinnati Reds. Upon his return to Cincinnati in 1984, Rose became the last full-time player-manager in the history of Major League Baseball and did it for 3 more years after the trade. Managing the franchise didn't mean Rose had lost his intensity one bit. In 1988, an umpire's delayed call allowed a run to score against his team. Furious, manager Rose came barging out of the dugout to argue about it. Unfortunately, Rose physically shoved the umpire during the altercation, and he was immediately tossed from the game. The league handed a 30-day suspension for it, the longest for a manager over an on-field incident in baseball history. I mean, what can we say? Pete Rose being Pete Rose.
I've never seen Pete Rose touch an umpire or even come close to an umpire.
Well, Peter gets suspended too.
Yep.
He got suspended.
Number 3. Controversies and scandals. Cork bat, sexual assault. Other than incidents on the field, controversies and scandals followed Pete Rose throughout his lifetime. In 1990, Rose served 5 months in a federal prison for tax evasion by failing to declare the income he had earned from selling autographs and betting on horse racing. He also had to pay a $50,000 fine and perform 1,000 hours of community service. In 2001, Tommy Gio Iossa, who was mentored by Rose, claimed he took the fall for the Hit King and that Pete was involved in a drug deal to pay off his debts. In 2010, allegations were that Rose had cheated by corking his bats when he was chasing Ty Cobb's record, a big no-no in the baseball world. Despite Rose's denial of these allegations, the collectors who owned the bats he had used in these historic games allowed them to be x-rayed. In 2017, it was alleged that Rose had slept with a minor back in the 1970s. It was alleged that the two were involved while Pete was still married to his first wife.
And who cares what happened 50 years ago? You weren't even born.
Now, whether this story was factual has not been proven, but scandals followed this man everywhere he turned. The worst is at number 2. Number 2, ban from baseball. In early 1989, a shocking report revealed the league was investigating allegations that Rose had repeatedly bet on his own team's games at wagers of over $10,000 a day. After a long and complicated investigation, the MLB decided that Rose should be banned from baseball. He was the first individual since 1943 to receive such a drastic punishment. It also meant that, despite his legendary playing career, the legendary Rose would now be ineligible for the Baseball Hall of Fame. Eerily, Bart Giamatti, the MLB commissioner who instituted Rose's lifetime ban,
Mr. Rose has accepted baseball's ultimate sanction, which is lifetime ineligibility, and he must now live with the consequences of those acts.
died suddenly of a heart attack. Rose denied the allegations but ultimately agreed to the terms of the ban. In 2004, Rose finally came clean about the gambling allegations.
For 14 years, your case has hovered over baseball. Did you bet on baseball?
Yes, I did, and that was my mistake, not coming clean a lot earlier.
He admitted that he bet on the Reds while playing and managing them. He added that he bet on his team every night, but always on them winning. As if that made it any better, right? Number 1, what is he doing now? In 1999, when fans voted him onto the sport's all-century Dream Team roster, the league permitted him to attend and participate in the once-in-a-lifetime ceremony. Rose has applied to Major League Baseball for reinstatement several times over the last 30 years, but with no success. The last request was sent to Commissioner Rob Manfred in 2015, and it was denied. Manfred argued that Rose's continued habit of gambling on sports would preclude him from being considered trustworthy if allowed back into involvement with the league. After being married twice, Pete Rose is now living in Las Vegas and is engaged to former Playboy model Kiana Kim. The two briefly had a TLC series in 2013 called Hits and Misses for a season, and Rose spends several hours a day, 15 to 25 days per month, 12 months per year, signing his name for money. Pete signs and poses for photos with anyone who buys his memorabilia from his business partners. The items, such as a baseball and a photo, range from $75 to $800. And for this, Rose earns more than $1 million per year. Yet Pete Rose will look back on his career and what was achieved on the field with pride. However, he will live with the regret of what could have been. You only get one chance to live, and Pete Rose's had a wild, unbelievable life. So what do you think of Pete Rose and his legacy in baseball? Should he be back in baseball and into the Hall of Fame? Let me know in the comments section and subscribe to the channel for more premium sports-related content. Until next time.